How you doing? This is Mitch with Native Survival. Today, I'm going to show you how to use a buck saw properly. Stay tuned. Alright, time to go get some wood. I can split, so I'm going to buck up some downfall. This is birch. I'm going to cut from that right there. Now just a quick rundown on using a saw, buck saw. There's kind of two ways to do this. Because I'm a righty, when I cut, the wasted end is on the right and it will just fall off as I cut, right? If I'm on the other side, I'm going to be holding the wasted end and I'm going to get pulled down when it falls, or I'll let go, whatever, or I'll put my hand through the saw like this. Reliance does this. This is like field standard stuff, right? I'm not making this up. This is not dangerous. Put your hand through the saw after you get it started, and I'm holding the non-wasted end, and the wasted end will still fall to my left. All right, that's another way to do that. Okay, that's the opposite. That's like a opposite hand, opposite side, kind of goofy foot. And the other way on this side, if you're going to waste to the right, would be to step through and hold it on this side. But again, this is the wasted side that's going to fall. And I just let that fall. I never hold the wasted side like that. I always hold the solid side, the main side. That is the rest of it. So I keep cutting, wasting to the right, and I hold the left. But again, if I want to do it from the other side, I could put my hand through to hold the solid side, the non-wasted side. This is going to be strange to cut because it's split, so I'm going to try to split this a little bit before I cut it. Here we go. I think I'll carry this back to camp just like that. But this next piece I'm going to cut the round end. It's always better to use a saw on a round end than a flat end because it touches the peaks on the edges, and it's just kind of strange on the saw. Say like here. Now, depending on how you set up your buck saw, I can hold either side. So right now, this buck saw is cutting on the push, and it's wasting the wood on the return. So the push is what's making all the dust, and the pull is what's cleaning out the cut. Now, that works well when I'm standing above. So I'm standing above and I'm putting my weight down and it's cutting on the push, and I'm using my weight to do that. Conserve a lot of calories that way. However, if I want to do on the pull, which works well if I'm on the same plane as the wood I'm cutting. So if I'm cutting like one of these other pieces that are like chest height, or this one if I move back. Say I'm cutting like this. I'm cutting like shoulder height. I don't like to do the push on this. It just feel like, you know, I'm doing a lot of work. So I turn the saw around, and what you do is now, when you're cutting, it's on the pull. And that's easy because I'm pushing with my hand off the wood, and I'm using my weight to go backwards, rather than go forward and then stop myself from falling. If I'm cutting on the forward, then I have to really work hard this way, and I'm like going forward and have to stop. It's like doing a push-up every time. And obviously that's going to burn more energy, more calories, more water, rather than, you know, pulling. And on the forward is like, I'm just, you know, I'm just cleaning out the cut. And then I rip back. And it gets wasted because the wasted side is hung. And so because that's hanging, that's going to fall. Now, I would never want to cut on the opposite side of my brace. Let's talk about bracing real quick. So there's my brace. Right here. This is what's bearing the weight. Everything past that brace is waste. I can cut it and it falls. Cut it, it falls. If I cut on this side of the brace, what's going to happen is the heavy side, the unwasted side, is going to start dropping as it cuts. So it's going to create a cut here, and it's going to cause a V. And what that does is it causes the wood to pinch the blade. Your blade gets stuck, and that's it. You can either break your blade off by mistake, or you have to push, rather pull and pick up the non-wasted side, the solid side, the rest of the tree. You have to pull it way up, and if it's like a big tree and you can't lift it, like, you can't do it now, unless you get, you know, long poles underneath it, and you put a log this way, and you make like a seesaw, and you push, and that will lift it up. I mean, you can work on mechanics to raise heavy weights, but this is not something you want to do. You know, you always want to avoid that, because you can break your tool. And if you're in a survival situation, this is the only blade you have to protect this tool, because this tool protects you. So if I cut on this side of the brace, see, it's laying on here. Here's my brace, right? If I cut on this side, the wood is going to collapse on this side onto my blade and pinch my blade. So you always cut on the overhang, the outside where it can be just wasted and fall right off. And then if I want to cut some more, I have to either move this brace further down once I finish it. If I cut it right here, there's none overhanging. I have to either move the brace, right, go further down with the brace, or I need to pick up the tree if I can and slide it further like this. So now the cut end is longer, and now I can cut it again and drop some more waste. You know, so you have two options: either move the piece you're cutting up to create more wood that can be wasted on the wasted side of the brace, or you need to move the brace underneath it to do the same thing. It creates more wasted wood. When you're creating your beginning notch, you want to go with the blade on the opposite direction of the cut. So right now I'm doing a push cut, where all the energy, the blade is designed to cut on the push and clean the notch on the return. So that's what I do. I create my notch with return cuts, just a couple, 2 or 3, and I kind of rock forward a little bit, and I kind of rock back a little bit, and I go back to the middle. First couple cuts are very slow and gentle, and like no downward pressure. I'm letting the saw do the work, using the whole blade. I have to be careful hitting that log at the front of my saw. You want to make sure you don't hit things. You can break your blade. I slowly pick up speed. Also, my leg is not underneath it. My leg is to the side where it's safe. If it cuts through, I'm not going to get hit. And I also have my leg up against the piece I'm cutting, which creates more stability, because I'm pretty far away from the brace. I should be cutting right up against the brace, but there's a bunch of obstructions here, so I really can't cut where I want to. So I'm just improvising a little bit, creating like a secondary brace almost, a sideway brace on my knee. Sliding down, creeping towards my leg, so I'm going to reposition before I get to the end where it's going to cut off. I'm at the point where I'm balancing in the middle of the log, so I can pick it up right now. So that's not good. I'm going to pin it against some stuff down there. Try to keep it still. Here we go. Now as I go further towards the base, it's getting really wet looking. It's starting to get really spalted and rotten in the birch. So I'm going to leave the rest here, let it dry out for my next camping trip. When carrying my saw, I always carry a blade away. Then I simply drop off the wood at my splitting log, where I can use my axe to process all this wood down, smaller pieces of firewood. I usually keep my saw off to the side a couple ways, either leaning like this, unless I'm using my splitting log, of course. In that case, I just set it off to the side. Very simple, like that. Blade away from me. Another option is to find a tree just outside of reach of the axe, of anything, of people, and you hang it on a branch. It can be as simple as this. Right? Just hang on a branch. Simple as that. If I want to lean it, I can also do that. You can do that against a tree. Simple solution. Okay, that's been Mission 8 Survival. Hope this Bucksaw tutorial helps you out, gives you some ideas on how to cut safely, how to cut efficiently, how to keep your blades safe, and how to not pinch it, how to waste wood, different holding techniques. And this tool is incredibly powerful in the forest to create firewood, as long as the log can fit in this space. Because if you're cutting through a log, right, say like this, cutting through a log, going down, say the log is this big, I'm going to bottom out before I get all the way through. I can only cut a log with this saw the size from the arch, the brace, to the teeth. Anything over, what is that, about 8 inches, 10 inches, anything over that, the saw cannot cut it. The saw cannot cut without bottoming out, and then you gotta pull it out and you're done. You know, try to go underneath, but that's not the way to do it, because you're gonna get pinched, because it creates a hinge. So as it's falling off the brace, the wood goes down, and if your blade is at the bottom, it's just gonna pinch it right there. And if it's that big, it's gonna be heavy. It's gonna come crashing down onto your saw, and you can shatter this thing. I mean, this is made of very small wood. Bucksaws are kind of delicate, but they have an absolute savage tool connected to them. And you can make replacements. Obviously, this is just wood, paracord, you know, and the blade, that's it. You can make replacements in the forest. At some point we'll do a video about that. But it's a very simple tool to use, very simple tool to take care of. And we'll also do a sharpening video at some point as well. We'll discuss blade types and all of that. It's been Mitch, Native Survival. Thank you so much. Enjoy the forest. Take care.